you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey folks, welcome to the program. Happy Monday night. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to the Intrepid Wait, it's Tuesday. Sorry about that. It's Tuesday. I get my days all mixed up. I don't know why. It's felt like weekend days almost every day for the last week, and I'm not sure why. Because I'm working, I'm doing stuff. Maybe it's because we're packing the house. Rainey's going to town, packing up all the stuff in the house. And I'm still working, doing illustration work, doing all my junk. And anyway, welcome. Happy Tuesday night to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host, if you didn't know that. And this is the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Come on over and see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. And, Russ, the owner, I don't know if he was serious or not, but really early this morning, like about 5 this morning or something, texted me and he said, we ought to do a show that's like the old men show. Remember that with, it was Jimmy Kimmel. Kimmel? Yeah, it was Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla did that show 20 years ago. And he said, maybe we should do a show like that. And so, yeah, Barbie D, I know. I state the wrong day. And it's like, what? I thought it was Tuesday all day. Nah, it is Tuesday. So I thought it was Monday. So, hey, Dave Potter, how you doing? Good to see you. Matthew Finn, Master Finn, good to have you here. My first mate, Susie Q, good to have you here. I guess we could call you the bosun. And these are some of my, why is the word slipping? My text for this, not text, it's my moderators. Jeez. There you go. That's the state my mind is in tonight. Field guy, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Yeah, girls on trampolines and guys drinking beer. Let's see. We got Barbie D is here, who was here nice and early. She came early for the good seats, and she got them. I think she's all spread out. I've got to get reclining seats in for the good seats in this show. So those of you who come into the chat room, you're getting the good seats. You can recline back, eat your popcorn. We went and saw a movie with the kids, Rainey and I with the kids, last weekend, and we went and saw The Rock and what's her name? I can't think of her name. In Jungle Cruise. Man, I was prepared for, a kind of insipid little Disney type spin-off on one of their rides, and it's The Rock and all of this, but it actually was pretty darn good. It really invoked, if the memories weren't already there of the original Indiana Jones, which is totally different movie, invokes totally different things for me, but it had that feel, that action, that story, the pacing, everything was really good about it. And so we went to see that, and it was pretty good. But we got the good seats. We went to the theater to see it. And at the theater over here in Hudson, they have the reclining seats, which is pretty nice. big leather recline. Field guy, you boycott everybody. What are you boycotting The Rock for now? I don't care about his politics. I watch him for his movies. And let's put it this way. Not a big fan of The Rock. I just like The Rock. I like some of the movies he's been in. My wife is kind of like, yeah, I'd leave you for The Rock in a heartbeat. So there it is. Doug Stack, how you doing? Good to see you. And glad that you made it in tonight. We got Dave Potter, we got Matt Finn, we got Barbie D, we got Susie Q, we got Field Guy, we got Lucky Stone. Lucky, I saw your comment at the beginning. So they're telling you have to have a mandatory vaccination by next Monday or you could lose your job. Is that true? Why are they able to do that? I'd like to know that. I'd like to know why an employer can have access to your medical records and base whether or not you can be employed by them. So, man, that is a court case in the making. I would just think, and I know it's a pain in the ass to do, but if I went to work and my boss told me, or my supervisor said, you have to be vaccinated, we got to see your vaccination card or we're going to probably fire you if you don't. So you're coercing me to get a vaccination. You're coercing me with my livelihood, hanging that over my head. And everybody's like, oh, you should just do it voluntarily if you cared for other people. Bull as in bull, shit as in shit. That's not how it works, folks. So we don't get into a whole hour of talking about vaccinations and mandatory vaccinations and all of that. I'll leave it sitting there. Lucky, give us a report on that. Let us know how that goes. I would talk to an attorney this week. That's what I would do. So, hey, Delaney, many people are highly allergic to the preservatives in them vaccines. Yeah, you're right. And I can't take the vaccine because I have certain medical conditions. My wife can't take it because of her medical conditions. And it's not like we're not like weird or anything like that. We're not against vaccinations. In general, we're not anti-vaxxers. My kids have been vaccinated. I've been vaccinated. I took the flu shot, for Pete's sake, a year ago. It was before COVID, so it was probably before a year and a half ago. My doc said, you want the flu shot this fall? It's fall of 2019. I said, sure, why not? I'm here. Rainey's like, why'd you get that? I said, because he offered it. And so every now and then I've had maybe two or three flu shots in my life. People say, well, what's the difference then? It's not, that's FDA approved. So, yeah, there you go, Doug Stack. That's not what I said, says Lucky. They want to see my card by Monday. It's mandatory, but there is statement of the repercussions. What was the statement of you mean repercussions to them for making it mandatory or for you for not doing it? They've made a statement on that already to you and your fellow employees. That is a very sad day. You know what this all reminds me of, and I've said it before. I'm not hinging it on this, but I just remember biblical prophecy of the end times when I was a kid, eschatology. Talking about the rapture, the tribulation, the great tribulation, the millennial kingdom, all these things that would happen at the end times and everything that's involved with it. And one of the things during the great tribulation is that the Antichrist, he who, they didn't call him that wasn't his title, like, hi, President Antichrist here. No, it's the guy that would become the titular head of the world. I don't think he would rule the whole world. I think, according to the prophecy, he would be somebody who would influence the entire world. And so, I got Joe Biden's out for that job. Sorry for those of you who like Biden. I don't. I think he's worthless. And I'll leave it at that. But in eschatology, it said during the end times, people could not buy or sell without the mark of the beast, either on their wrist or in their forehead or wherever it was. And I started thinking of that. Are we going to get to a situation where And by the way, this was after a third of the world is devastated and things like that. And so you start looking at that and you go, is this how, like Nostradamus saw certain things they say? Is this the way eschatology unfolds? It's possible. I don't know, and I don't want to say I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. But I thought that was very interesting, is that they are demanding this. Restaurants, places of business, you couldn't buy or sell, you couldn't buy food, you couldn't go place without the mark of the beast. And so it's interesting. You can't go out to restaurants. There's certainly, you can't keep your job in some places. I would say Lucky Stone, they have no statement of punishment. You think it's a dog with no teeth? Maybe so. But if they're not stating it and you show up without a vaccination card, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? There's the big question that's on the table. Are they telling you have to show a vaccination card by next Monday? Why are they telling you that in the first place if they don't have plans to somehow try to enforce that? And I'm curious, Lucky, what kind of business are you in? What kind of work do you do? And if you hear yelling out there, that's Rainey upbraiding the children who are being absolute snots to her right now. Of course, she's a little over the edge with the move and all of that. And they're just, they get pretty nasty with her sometimes. I don't know where that comes from because we didn't teach them to be that way. But she's out there yelling at them. She just went, fine, fine. I'm so sick of hearing you say, fine, fine. To my kid, my 9-year-old girl. Fine, fine, whatever. It's like, shut up. I'm not 16 yet. So, let's see. What does Dave say here? Dave Potter said maybe we'll have to get mandatory vaccination tattoos. That's not too Nazi issue, is it? Yeah, that's pretty Nazi-ish. Nazi-ish, I think you were saying there. Voice to text, I'm sure. So, Lucky Stone makes vaccines and treatments. You work in biofarm. Biop harm. What is that? You follow all the rules, completing training, swab weekly, but I lost my card. There you go. You make vaccines and treatments. Well, good luck with that. Let us know how that goes. We'll see what happens. Sorry, I still got flies in here. You know, sometimes I step outside here so I can get away from the flies. I think there's billions of cubic square feet of airspace outside, but they all want to come into my house. Kids will stand there with the door open, talking to me out on the porch, and they're talking away, and then I'm like, close the door! And I'm watching hordes of flies, swarms just going into the house. So if you catch one, they're crawling on my screen too. I got to shoo them away. And so there you go. All right. Hey, I want to show you something. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go. Share my screen. This is just a piece of artwork. Boom, boom, and boom, boom. I want to show you this. There you go. This is the one of the other illustrations for how to be an archaeologist. And this is when he's running to the little curiosities shop with his pipe that he found in the river. And he wants to find out who it is, what it is, and so on. So this is a little town. I don't state that this takes place in England, but I have used a lot of references to England in this. You see way over here, if you can see my mouse, right over here, High Street. So he's on the corner, the oddity shop. It's on the corner of High Street and Crockett in this unnamed little fictional town on the River Cray. And the River Cray, of course, is in Wales and England. And so it might just be in England. I don't know if it goes over the border into Wales. But so I don't state anywhere. It's not a British book, but I do some homage to Great Britain in the book. And there's I don't know what year it is. I want to say it's a 66 Comet, a Mercury Comet. If somebody knows cars out there, Matthew Finn, do you know cars? I know you know cars. I found some pictures of the kind of vehicle I wanted to have in this picture, and I was seeing a big tail fin in this. And so I grabbed a Mercury Comet, and I just put in the search criteria 1960s Mercury Comet. And that's what I grabbed. So car buffs, there's even a cool car in this one. So let's go back and we'll get out of this. Just showing that off. That's just one I finished today. So stop screen share. There we go. Thank you, Barbie D. Flu lives matter, Doug Stack says. And Nazi-ish, says Dave Potter. That's what I thought you were trying to say. I'll create a vaccine of orange juice and vodka, says Field Guy. Oh, wait, he says. And I am familiar with mudlarking, unless if you're asking me or asking the group. I saw a couple of shows. You all know who Tony Robinson is. Dave, I know you do. He played Baldric in the Blackadder series. And 25, 30 years ago now. But Baldric, Tony Robinson, is knighted now by the Queen for his contribution to entertainment and television and history and archaeology. He had that show running for 17 plus years. Ryan Gale, welcome to the show. You may have seen this too. It was Time Team. And they did all this archaeological work in England, and they would go to certain sites and give themselves 3 days. That was the hook of the show. 3 days to uncover this site and to see what's there and so on. They uncovered a lot of Roman stuff and all of that. But he, in one of his episodes, went with some mudlarkers along the River Thames. Now, you think that would not be... Could you imagine Dave Potter... Especially, I think of this because we have such affinity on this. Yeah, I love that show too. Field Guy was a great show. And could you imagine being able to go along the River Thames at low tide? The river's got a tide because it's connected to the ocean. Walk along the banks of London. In certain areas especially, and be able to walk through the mud with a metal detector or just mucking up what's been washed up there, that would be absolutely amazing. And they found some pretty wild stuff that day that they were out mudlarking. So it's pretty cool. So mudlarking, digging in the mud. And so, hey, if you haven't seen it, folks, go over to... It's Amazon Prime Video. They have all the seasons on there. I think most of the seasons where you can watch all these. Last year during COVID and stuff like that, sequestration, I sat and watched those shows endlessly, and one after the other. I don't think I've missed a single one. And so really good stuff. If you want to see some good archaeological historical shows, there it is. Oh, that's cool, Dave. Dave follows some mudlarking sites who post daily what they find. I think, Dave, there's probably also some mudlarking you could do down below Fort Snelling on the Minnesota River. I think that there would be some great things down there. So there we go. That's that. And so welcome to everybody. If I haven't said welcome to you, Sean Stroik. Good to see you, brother. Glad you're in here. Great to have you in the show. Mechanics, good to see you as well. And Mechanics, I still don't know if I know who you are outside the chat room. You don't have to tell me here if you've got a pseudonym for another reason. But there's Brianna. How you doing, Brianna? Hello, my beautiful friend, she says. You must be talking to me. I'm sure, because that was singular. It wasn't like, hello, my beautiful friends in the chat room. It was my beautiful friend. I'm sure you're talking about me. So welcome to the show. Good to have you. And let's see what else is going on here. Ryan Gale's done it several times. Mudlarking? Are you talking in Fort Snelling, down below the fort at the river? That would be very interesting. So, My Pillow commercial is on my show. That's funny. Oh, interesting. So, yeah, thanks, Susie Q. Everybody, hit the likes and spread the word about the show if you like it. Now we're at 9:21. Let's get into a little bit of meat about what we're talking about tonight. Now, I don't want any of this to be something that is offensive to anybody, mostly because I don't know the answers to this stuff. I explore the questions. When we're talking about, we started last night, we're going to be on this for a little while, talking about this whole Jesus, Potter, Harry, Christ type of thing, which is the title of a book, by the way. And I'm taking a lot of material from his book, and so I'm just kind of going over, we're reviewing his book. And this is a book that was written by Derek Murphy called Jesus, Potter, Harry, Christ, The Fascinating Parallels Between Two of the World's Most Popular Literary Characters. And I'll probably say this a couple times as we get into this show at the beginning, just to set the stage for it. But if you want to pick up his book, go take a look for it. Looks like it's a pretty strong book. I haven't finished all aspects of reading his book, or all the chapters in his book. But I started wanting to get into some of this content because I think it's good. And the point he's making with calling Jesus a literary character is that there is no proof historically for his existence, which I waffle on that a bit because there is some proof, but there's also been the proof that exists has been debunked by scholars, and then the scholars' debunkment has been debunked by other scholars, and so you never quite know for sure. Like they talked about Josephus, first century Jewish historian, who wrote about, and he mentioned Jesus. Well, then somebody else came along a few years later and said, well, that paragraph by Josephus looks to have been edited. It's like plunked in out of nowhere and inserted in his histories. And so they were starting to doubt that that was a real thing written by Josephus. Well, then they've come back and said there are other things that prove that that passage is profoundly true or historical. So you don't know what to believe sometimes. And so what I want to do is present information. At the same time, I'm going to tell you this. For me to try to say that I do not believe Jesus ever existed is ridiculous, because I believe he did. I believe there's proofs for his existence. Is he the Son of God? Possibly. I don't know for sure. Haven't met him. Haven't met God. Other than that, that metaphoric sense. So, have any of you met God? Do you know? And I don't talk about, yes, I pray to him every day, and God speaks in my heart. No. As God walked into your office and sat down and said, hey, God, I'm God. Some know me as Jehovah, or, you can call me Yahweh. That hasn't happened to any of us. We believe by faith. And so I don't want to step on anybody's faith. I don't want to be insensitive to that. But I do want to look at this stuff and study it and find out what it has to say. And so we're going to look at part one of this whole series I'm doing is called the Historical Controversy. And we're going to talk about sacrificial half-breed warlocks. Harry is a Christ figure. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about doubting Jesus, ancient and modern controversies. We're going to talk about where's the proof, evidence, and arguments. And we're going to go pagan for a little bit, the forgotten prefigures of Christ. And I think this is going to be very interesting for you. I know it is for me. And I want to go through this stuff, and so I want you to enjoy this. So kind of sit back, and here we go. Let's look at what I'm going to call the whole umbrella on this is the historical controversy. And so you can skip all the introductions. You don't need to tell me that Jesus Christ and Harry Potter are two of the most famous celebrities in the world. We're going to skip through all of that introductory stuff and say, we already know this. And now you might plug somebody else in other than Harry Potter. You might say Indiana Jones. That's a possibility. But as far as literary characters, and by the way, there was a pastor, she was a children's pastor, Becky Fisher, said in 2006, warlocks are the enemies of God. And I don't care what kind of hero they are, they're an enemy of God. And had it been in the Old Testament, Harry Potter would have been put to death, she says, so eloquently. So this is where we're going to start digging in. Jesus Christ and Harry Potter are two of the most famous celebrities in the world. Their stories have been translated into dozens of languages, diverse cultures, international support. But what you might not be aware of is the mysterious, complicated, and intriguing relationship between Jesus Christ and Harry Potter. For example, did you know that the topics, I read Harry Potter and Jesus still loves me? And in the other topic, even Jesus reads Harry Potter and Harry Potter will return sooner than Jesus. All of those have their own Facebook groups. Did you know that? The Wikipedia has a page dedicated to religious debates over the Harry Potter series. And even more remarkable than their respective popularity is the significant tension and unexpected affinity between them. So at first glance, it might seem that J.K. Rowling's boy wizard and the crucified Jesus, prophet who became the Christian savior, have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And yet the unease and sometimes the outright animosity between the followers of these two figures suggest otherwise. Now, of course, one's a religion, following a religious leader versus following a fictional character. Two different things. But you know what I mean. You get what I mean. There's animosity there. Harry's been banned, burned, abused by religious fundamentalists for over a decade, almost 2 decades, really, when you think about it. Just what is it about Harry Potter that Christians find so amazingly threatening? On the surface, the conflict appears really simple. The Bible prohibits witchcraft, they say. Absolutely, on pain of death. Now, that's a mistranslation, as we all know. But there it is. So consequently, some Christians argue that the popularity of Harry Potter can lead children to accept that magic is okay, and if used for the right reasons, and thus lure them into evil practices that lead to damnation and hellfire. At the release of Rowling's final book, The Deathly Hallows, many readers were surprised to discover the parallels between Jesus and Harry that, in such apparently diverse worldviews, had no right to be there. As a result, recent years have witnessed a revolution in Christian responses to Harry, with many groups and writers and religious leaders praising Rowling's young sorcerer as ultimately Christian and a clear metaphor for Jesus Christ. And a few of the similarities that have been raised include that here's a list. Here's a bullet-pointed list for you. Hey, Michelle Canham-Free. Bree, you're leaving? All right, my friends, I'm off to bed. I have to be to work even earlier tomorrow. Yuck, you already leave the house at 5:50 in the morning. How would I know that? Because I spy on you. No, because I'm usually up and I see your car pull out, your truck pull out. So, okay, well, you have a fun night, Bree. So here's this list. It goes like this. Here's some of the similarities that have been raised between Harry Potter and Christ. Magic father, human mother. God, Mary, magic dad, human mom. Miraculous birth, foretold by prophecy. threatened by an evil ruler who had to go into hiding as a baby. Power over animals, time and matter. Symbolized by a lion, enemy symbolized by a snake. Descended into the underworld. Broke 7 magical seals. It's Book of Revelation stuff right there. Went willingly to his death. Suffered and died, or appeared to die, willingly. Was mourned, but later came back to life. Defeated his enemy in a glorious final battle. So can this list really be applied to both Jesus Christ and Harry Potter equally? If so, where do the apparent similarities come from? More importantly, why do some Christian groups deem Harry Potter satanic, while Jesus Christ is revered as the Son of God? What key differences allow Christians to make the distinction between them? In order to answer these questions, I'm going to trace the raging controversy over the Harry Potter series and examine the Christian responses to J.K. Rowling's protagonist. And then we're going to explore the potential similarities themselves. I'm going to conclude by arguing that the key variance between the two is that Harry Potter is obviously a fictional character, while Jesus is almost universally accepted as an historical figure. So that's what we have to deal with when looking at this. We have to keep this in mind, that Harry Potter is just like an archetype. But then you have some that believe Jesus is as fictional as Harry Potter. Then you've got the author saying she loosely based Harry Potter on a messianic theme. That was the overall arc from beginning to end. So here's some background on this. The character of Harry Potter popped into Joanne Rowling's head in 1990. And she was returning by train to London after a flat hunting in Manchester. She didn't have a pen, so for the next 4 hours, she simply sat and thought. She dreamed up the story of a scrawny, black-haired kid, bespectacled, who didn't know how he was a wizard. She started writing Philosopher's Stone as soon as she got back to her Clapham Junction flat. And Rowling's Rags to Riches has been an inspiration for millions of would-be authors. After years of personal challenges, including a failed marriage, problems with depression, Rowling crafted her novel in a nearby cafe while her daughter was sleeping, surviving on state welfare support. And after some initial rejection, Rowling found her agent, Christopher Little. The book was submitted to 12 publishing houses, all of which rejected the manuscript. Then in August of 1996, Christopher called to tell her that Bloomsbury, a small publishing house in London, had made an offer. And you get that? When she wrote this book, they went to 12 different publishing houses. And this is 96. This is 25 years ago. And so she finally gets a deal with a small publisher, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which later became Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in the movie, and books re-released in America. It became an overnight sensation when it hit the bookstores. It was the first children's book to make it onto the New York Times bestseller list since E.B. White's Charlotte's Web in 1952. It was followed shortly by Rowling's next 2 books, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. These 3 books held the top 3 positions on the New York Times bestseller list in 1999, all 3 of them. And on December 18th of 2001, USA Today announced that J.K. Rowling had become the best-selling author in the world, displacing mystery writer John Grisham. And in 2004, they named Rowling the most successful author of the decade, landing 5 of the top 6 spots on the list of the 100 best-selling books of the past 10 years. And in 2007, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the 7th and final volume of J.K. Rowling's fantasy series, sold 11 million, get this, 11 million copies in just 24 hours. Whew. I wonder if she's the richest woman in the world. And she sold 8.3 million copies in another week, almost doubling that in a week, making it the fastest selling book in history. And I mentioned last night my own twin daughters were eagerly awaiting the release of that book. And as soon as that book was up, bam, they pre-ordered it. And so they had it in that first day. Still known as Philosopher's Stone here. Maybe it's just the movies, The Sorcerer's Stone. Or was it Sorcerer's Stone originally, and it became Philosopher's Stone? Maybe I mixed those up. Mechanics. So, bookstores and publishers have been surprised not only by the sales, but by the passion of the supporting fans who find the books irresistible. Part of this can be chalked up to a brilliant marketing campaign. But even so, it's clear that Rowling has presented an intriguing story with central characters that fans identify with a rich magical world. And by the way, it was, I want to say Ed Levine of Scholastic Books, who was wandering through a bookstore in England, and he found Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone on the shelf by the small publisher. He looked at it, loved it, bought the rights, and that's where she took off from with Scholastic Books. So it'd be a mistake to identify the series of Harry Potter books exclusively as children's literature. It's not. If you've ever read them or have thought of reading them, it's not just children's books. The books have received an enthusiastic reception from adults as well, and in the seriousness of the later books, it's clear that Rowling had a mature audience in mind. And keep in mind, some of these kids, by the time the 7th book had come out, were already into their teens, already into their later teen years. And so she wrote to a much more mature audience. As you know, the stories get darker and darker, and the content gets deeper and deeper. And so horror writer Stephen King noted that the great success of Harry Potter series is that Rowling's kids grew up. The books, which certainly began as children's literature, developed into something much more sober, as Rowling's depiction of the conflict between good and evil, her characters, and her writing skills reached maturity. Think about that. 7 books. Kids grew up with those books. And they went into adulthood with those books. They took everything she wrote and took it into maturity. So these books ceased to be now. This is a quote. These books ceased to be specifically for children. Halfway through the series, by Goblet of Fire, Rowling was writing for everyone, and she knew it. The clearest sign of how adult books had become by the conclusion arrives, and splendidly, in Deathly Hallows, when Mrs. Weasley sees the odious Bellatrix Lestrange trying to finish off Ginny with a killing curse. Not my daughter, you bitch, she yells. It's the most shocking bitch in recent fiction, since there's virtually no cursing of any kind, of the linguistic kind anywhere in the Potter books. And this one hits home with almost fatal force. And it's totally correct in its context, perfectly real. Perfect, really. But it's also quintessentially adult response to a child's peril. That was all Stephen King. The popularity of Harry Potter has also drawn the attention of the academic reader and popular nonfiction titles about the series, such as a universal element of contemporary culture. Harry Potter has been used to shed light on more complex social and political issues. Excuse me. I just belched on air. Sorry about that. Just came up out of nowhere. I think the last time that happened was when Rocky and I were doing radio. I opened my mouth to say something and a belch crawled out. Blah. I'm like, whoa, excuse me. So, in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Colonialism, Tracy Douglas, author, seeks to place Harry Potter within the wider context of the British literature canon's tendency to define the foreigner against a characterization of English identity. That's a mouthful. Gwen A. Tarbox in Harry Potter and the War on Terror reflects, if the earlier books in the series were designed to engage children's sense of wonder, it would appear that the later texts are designed to encourage children's skepticism of the current geopolitical situation. Nancy Lee Allen, meanwhile, in Understanding Prejudice, utilizing the Harry Potter series, claims this: Harry Potter's world is full of prejudicial ideas, though not the ones found in our world. In Harry's world, people are not discriminated against for the color of their skin, their religious affiliation, or their sexual identity. It's all about blood, pure, half, or muggle. Teens easily identify with the characters and are able to relate to the idea of prejudice in the magical world. And these books allow us to explore inner feelings about people who are different without identifying anyone as a real-world racist, which can lead to a better understanding of ourselves and begin to build respect for those who are different. And speaking on that, do you remember all the hullabaloo because J.K. Rowling made some kind of comment about transgenderism and homosexuality or something like that, that the transgender community didn't like, the LGBTQ community didn't like, and they started blasting her. This was just last year. And I don't think she ever apologized, but she did come. When you're worth what she's worth, you don't have to apologize to anybody. But she did come out and she offered some clarity on her point of view. She said, I think you're all jumping to a conclusion. Here, let me explain what I'm saying, because y'all did the knee jerk. And there were even, I read some articles that said, can Harry Potter ever be read again? Will J.K. Rowling lose everything she has by way of fans because of what she said about transgenderism? And I don't even remember what she said. It was so insignificant. But she came out and she said, look, if you want to be mad at me, be mad at me. But here's what I was saying. And she didn't apologize, which was very cool. I think the only apology, she said, if I offended any of you by what I said, that wasn't my intent. You need to look at what I said. And nowadays it's cancel culture, so you know. So yeah, Sean Strike, there it is. So bring on the fifis, says Matt Finn. Exactly. So academics have tried to isolate what gives Harry Potter its distinctive appeal. Tricia Sneidel-Arrington writes, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books are modern Gothic novels, which incorporate symbols to create vivid imagery while connecting to the adolescent's self-discovery journey. Janet Nielsen finds that J.K. Rowling draws from global sources for inspiration for everything from spells to magical creatures. That's, by the way, the newer books and the newer movie series. Fantastic Beasts is literally fantastic as well. These stories and sources are woven throughout the text to create depth and a sense of cultures beyond the one in which Harry lives. John Granger, one of the first writers to comment on the Christian symbolism in Harry Potter, notes that Rowling wields the tools of narrative misdirection, literary alchemy, the hero's journey, postmodern themes, and traditional symbolism to engage and entrance us well beyond suspended disbelief. The hero's journey, I mentioned that gave me chills. That was Joseph. What's wrong with my brain tonight? I think I'm really tired. Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces and the Hero's Journey, and so on. So the academic interest in the Harry Potter phenomenon has inspired over a dozen literary conferences focused on the Harry Potter series. In 2008 alone, the list of Potter conferences included Terminus in Chicago, Convention Alley in Ottawa, Portus in Dallas, Accio in England, and even more have been held in the years since. And for serious researchers, there's a 275-page hardcover called Scholarly Studies in Harry Potter, Applying Academic Methods to a Popular Text. It was released in 2005 and sold on Amazon for $109.95. Might as well just say $110. Probably more now. So according to Debbie Minot, area children's librarian at Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council in UK, the articles in the book demonstrate the richness Harry Potter and his world provide for literary critics and scholars. Harry's quickly expanding fandom has even inspired comparisons to be made between the Potter series and the Bible, which popular culture has dubbed the best-selling book of all time. Although the Bible is still winning, Rowling's novels are catching up. Listen to this. According to Rowling's agent, Christopher Little, the 7 Harry Potter books have so far been translated into 67 languages, amassing the 400 million figure since the publication of the first book in the series, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 1997. And despite the furious pace of sales, Harry Potter will still have his work cut out to catch the Bible, which according to the Guinness Book of World Records has sold 2.5 billion copies since 1815 and has been translated into 2,233 languages or dialects. So, along with its success, you going to get banned, Matt and Barbie? What are you guys doing? So, what did you say? Don't entertain the mentally ill by repeating their garbage. There's truth to that. So, Matt Finn, she got blasted recently. Yeah, she did, Sean. And made a lot of Harry Potter jokes over the years, says Matt Finn. Are we going to get banned, Matt? I got a wrench in your back, sister, he says. There you go. Elderberry, boo. Good to see you. And so as this goes on, reporting on all this, along with its success, however, came controversy. And the overwhelming popularity of the Harry Potter series might have been what first raised the suspicion of conservative Christians, who, citing the examples of magic and witchcraft in Harry Potter's world, have declared Rowling's fiction satanic propaganda designed to lead children into the occult. The continuing debate among Christian communities over whether children should be allowed to read the Harry Potter series has frequently been reported by the media. For example, in news reports of lawsuits attempting to ban Harry Potter books from schools and public libraries, or the more startling accounts of public book burnings. Book fucking burnings. Aside from evolution, Harry Potter is one of the most controversial subjects in the heated debate over what we should be teaching our children in school. And while these issues are predominantly constrained to U.S. politics and culture, the spread of evangelical forms of Christianity abroad have resulted in similar issues. On August 2nd of 2000, Education Week reported that the American Library Association reports that at least 13 states witnessed attacks on the Harry Potter novels last year, at the time of the writing of this, making them the most challenged books of 1999. Given the enormous publicity and forecasted sales of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, we can expect the attacks to escalate when school reopens in September. Now, my ex-wife, the mother to my 3 older kids, Sam, who you all know, and my daughters, Abby and Bryn, she called me one day furious that I was allowing my daughters to read the Harry Potter books, let alone take them to the movies when they came out. She wanted me to agree to not let them read the books or see the movies. And I said, no. I said, I think they're very good, and I got hung up on, so I didn't get to give my reasons. But, and she was also against The Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm talking about the movies because my kids weren't reading the books at the time, but we were going to see all the movies. And she was dead set against it. It's all stuff of Satan, she said. Harry Potter full of satanic stuff. Lord of the Rings is all satanic, and so on and so on and so on. I remember, I think I told you this story once before, but I'll mention it. She had come to pick up the kids from school, and my daughters were not home yet. And Sam, I had him watching Lord of the Rings, the end of the Return of the King. And she said, I don't like him watching this. And I said, why don't you sit for a few minutes? Just get a taste for what this is. And I said, I think you'll really like this. And what was playing was that last 15, 20 minutes of the trilogy in Return of the King, where the mission's accomplished, Aragorn is the king, Frodo and Sam and Pippin and Merry are all returning home to the Shire. And there's a scene that my wife watched. And it's that scene where they're in Hobbiton, which is the house of Bilbo Baggins, and then, of course, Frodo Baggins. That gorgeous house. And the camera is moving slowly through the rounded corridor. And there's this soft music is playing. And the voiceover, you see Frodo in the background walking into the room, and it's a voiceover. He's saying, how can you return to a former life when so much has happened and so much has gone on? And it was a very moving scene. And my ex-wife was watching that, and she actually teared up over that whole scene and that whole last 15 minutes. And she seemed to have no problems with Lord of the Rings after that, but never mentioned it again. Michelle, I know you're giggling at the chat, and I've been basically ignoring the chat. Sorry, folks, not for any reason other than I'm just going through material here. Matt, I heard that Sean Stroik tried out for Harry Potter, but he got turned down. I was Batman instead, says Sean. Too tall. He didn't have the scar. Sean says, Barbara, I could not sit on the broom as a man. There you go. I see where you're coming from, Michelle. So I just had to sign documents that I would never tell. Good stuff, guys. See what I get for talking too much and not paying attention to the chat? So, all these initial responses to Harry Potter were inflamed by a spoof article called Harry Potter Books Spark Rise in Satanism Among Children. And it was posted by Satire News, guess who? The Onion, on July 26th of 2000. We're looking at, God, that's 21 years ago. That's how old these books and movies are now. Well, the books are that old. But using made-up interview statements and provocative language, The Onion painted a frightening picture of Harry's satanic influence on kids. It went like this. I used to believe in what they taught us at Sunday school, said Ashley, conjuring up an ancient spell to summon Cerberus, the three-headed hound of hell. But the Harry Potter books showed me that magic is real, something I can learn and use right now, and that the Bible is nothing but boring lies. I think it's absolute rubbish to protest children's books on the grounds that they're luring children to Satan, Rowling told a London Times reporter in a July 17th interview. People should be praising them for that. These books guide children to an understanding of that the weak, idyllic Son of God is a living hoax who will be humiliated when the rain of fire comes and will suck the greasy cock of the Dark Lord while we, his faithful servants, laugh and cavort in victory. Yes, I used the C word there. Now, this was in the Onion spoof article. And although the article was meant to ridicule the fears of Christian parents protesting the Harry Potter books and poke fun of the controversy, it was unexpectedly used by Christians, either deliberately or without realizing that The Onion is a satire site, as definitive proof against the series. Soon after the article appeared, a chain letter was created and forwarded in a massive email campaign, which heavily cited the passages of The Onion's fabricated news story. By mixing truth with fiction, it proved a powerful motivator in the fight against Rowling's young wizard. Went like this. The date was Friday, the 4th of August, 2000. Subject: Harry Potter books. This is the most evil thing I have laid my eyes on in 10 years, and no one seems to understand its threat. The Harry Potter books are the number one, in all caps, selling children's books in the nation today. Just look at any Barnes & Noble or Walden book storefront. Go to Amazon.com and read the reviews. Hear the touting by educators and even Christian teachers about how it's great to see the youth so eagerly embracing the reading experience. Harry Potter is the creation of a former UK English teacher who promotes witchcraft and Satanism. Harry's a 13-year-old wizard. Her creation openly blasphemes Jesus and God and promotes sorcery, seeking revenge upon anyone who upsets them by giving you examples, even the sources with the authors and the titles, of spells, rituals, and demonic powers. It's the doorway for children to enter the dark side of evil. My hope is that you will see fit to become involved in getting the word out that this garbage, please forward to every pastor, teacher, and parent you know. This author has now published 4 books in less than 2 years of this encyclopedia of Satanism, and is surely going to write more. I also ask all Christians to please pray for this lost woman's soul. Pray also for the Holy Spirit to work in the young minds of those who are reading this garbage, that they may be delivered from its harm. Lastly, pray for all the parents to grow closer to their children, and that a bond of sharing thoughts and spiritual intimacy will grow between them. I have no doubt my ex-wife probably saw that email. So, yeah, Mechanics. Mechanics says the Onion must have been rolling on the floor laughing for a few days straight. Yeah, I would too. So letters such as the one I just read you ignited outrage. It inspired a deliberate movement against J.K. Rowling's novels. In 2001, several book burnings were held with Harry Potter as the main stimulus. In early January of 2002, the Christ Community Church of Alamogordo, New Mexico, became the topic of international media attention for its book burning after the pastor, Jack D. Brock, preached a sermon on the topic, "The Baby Jesus or Harry Potter?" Brock stated he considered the Harry Potter books to be an example of our society's growing preoccupation with the occult. The Potter books present witchcraft as a generally positive practice, while the Bible expressly condemns all occult practices. And the event became the topic of the news features in both the United States and England. And Pastor Brock admitted to never having read, he never even read any of the Potter novels. And so in August 2003, the Jesus Non-Denominational Church in Greenville, Michigan, also burned Harry Potter books. According to the report, the pastor says stories like Harry Potter that glorify wizardry and sorcery will lead people to accept and believe in Satan. Evangelical Protestants were not the only ones worried that positive depictions of wizardry would mislead children. In a letter from March 2003, Cardinal Ratzinger, now Pope Benedict the 16th, at the time some of this stuff was written down. He was Pope Benedict the 16th. Thanked the author of Harry Potter. Good or is Pope Benedict the 16th still the Pope? I don't think so. Or is Benedict the guy that died? really fast. I can't remember. I don't keep up on my popes. So, Pope Benedict XVI thanked the author of Harry Potter, good or evil, who argued that Rowling's novels corrupt young people and harm a child's developing relationship with God for her instructive book. The Pope said this, Benedict XVI, "It is good that you enlighten people about Harry Potter, because those are subtle seductions which act unnoticed and by this deeply distort Christianity in the soul before it can grow properly." Harry Potter's also been a dividing factor in many communities. For several years, J.K. Rowling's series topped the American Library Association's list of most challenged books for reasons including anti-family, occult Satanism, religious viewpoint and violence. Those are reasons cited in 2001. Now, attempting to educate Christians about the dangers of Harry Potter, Robert McGee of Merritt Island, Florida, released a documentary in 2001, Harry Potter, Witchcraft Repackaged, Making Evil Look Innocent, claiming that Rowling's books introduce kids to human sacrifice, witchcraft, and even Nazism. School boards in Cedarville, Arkansas, and the Eastern York School District in Pennsylvania were challenged on decisions regarding whether Harry Potter should be allowed in school libraries. In 2002, the police department of Penryn, Pennsylvania, refused to direct traffic for the YMCA triathlon because Harry Potter was read to kids attending the YMCA after-school program. In a letter sent to the YMCA, the town's police captain questioned whether it was serving the will of God by reading Harry to children. I don't know. I read shaved to children, but no, that's a joke. It's a joke. Adding, as long as we don't stand up, it won't stop, said the police chief. It's unfortunate this is the way it has to be. And although the controversy softened with the continued success of Harry Potter and its endorsement by many mainstream religious organizations, pockets of resistance remain. In 2006, the conflict resurfaced with the documentary Jesus Camp, which shadowed a Christian camp aimed at using children to proselytize. Leader Becky Fisher's bold comments on Harry Potter were quoted at the beginning of this chapter, and traces of the early email campaign based from the Onion article continue to condition Christian responses to Harry Potter. And in July of 2009, Reverend Douglas Taylor and his Jesus Party received media attention for protesting the opening of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. These protests were mocked by the satire site Land Rover Baptist as part of their continuing fictitious campaign against Harry Potter. They said this: "Each night in July, during the release of the satanic film The Half-Blood Prince, Jesus youths will be armed with fire extinguishers filled with compressed lamb's blood. Our brave Baptist youths will innocently approach theater lines and spray unsaved moviegoers with the warm blood of the Lamb. They'll shout the name of Jesus and throw chick tracts into the day's crowd." If you don't know what a chick tract is, I'll tell you in a minute. "Into a day's crowd," says Pastor. "They need to run like their Dickens are on fire after witnessing time is over because they are outreaching for Jesus outside of church property. And there might be some unsaved police officers about. Church vans will be waiting a quarter-mile away from each theater to escort Jesus youths back to the main sanctuary for a debrief with the Board of Deacons. Then it's off to Friendlies for 20 minutes of ice cream fellowship." So as recently as October 24th, 2010, the following article was posted on the blog Everyday for Life Canada. "As the Harry Potter phenomenon continues to contaminate the hearts and minds of Canadian youth, I felt it necessary to address my concerns and that of so many other like-minded Christians who clearly understand the Harry Potter controversy, that it glorifies and propagates the occult. Make no mistake, the Harry Potter storyline is about witches and wizards, the practice of divination, necromancy, and sorcery. It's all presented in a glorifying way through the exciting adventures of a young boy's life. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the Christian responses. What's the big deal? We're going to look at their responses to all of this. So there you're getting an idea. This is just background about Harry Potter. Why would Harry Potter become somebody that would be compared to the Messianic, to the Christ? And so we're going to look at that. We're going to pick this up tomorrow where we're leaving off now. We're going to talk about that. And of course, excuse me, I mentioned that I was going to tell you what a chick tract is. Anybody here not familiar with chick tracts? They were about this size, about like that, probably about 5-6 inches by 3.5 inches, black and white. They were little comic books with 2 or 3 frames or full frames per page stapled in the middle. And these were big in the 70s when I first became a born-again Christian. And we used to pass those out. Where will you be 5 minutes after you die? And things like that. So that's what chick tracts are. So when they were mentioned chick tracts, that's what those were. So let's see. What do we got here? I'm just going to look at the end of the... Steve Clark says, it's been a long, hard day. Started with an eye appointment. But drops in my eyes, ended up blurred vision. I hate those things. They dilate your eyes for half the day. Let's see. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Hence the dirty mind, says Sean Strike. What did I miss? I let my daughter read it, he said. My kids, are you talking about the Harry Potter books? Don't ban books. Damn straight. Let parents decide. I agree with you. And I don't like the fact that they've banned Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain because they use old language referring to blacks in the South. They've banned Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie books because they said she was a racist. Those books ought not to be banned. None of those. It's become... That's part of why I've read sections from this book, The Authoritarian Moment by Ben Shapiro. That's why I've talked about that book, because of the culture cancellation that's been going on. Sean says, I've made my kids read Tom and Huck. Absolutely. I haven't read those to them yet, but I want to. I haven't done that yet. Get those classics in them. Michelle Canham Free says, much ado about nothing, Scotty. I missed something, so that's okay. I just sit here and talk. I don't always see what's being said. So, and that's okay. All right, guys. So I just want you to know we're going to pick this up tomorrow, Wednesday. Today's Tuesday, not Monday. And we're going to pick this up again and talk more about this. We're going to get the Christian responses to things. We're going to dig into why the historical basis of why anybody would say that there's any similarities on a literary level between Harry Potter and Jesus Christ. And I think it's going to be good. Sounds like Hitler all over again, says Steve Clark, and I think you're spot on. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. All right, guys, let's get out of here. So, as always, have a good night and live long and prosper.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAlanRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, AlanRoberts.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.